Today on Locked On Dolphins, we give our final predictions ahead of Miami's Week 12 contest against the New England Patriots.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, the author of Touchdown Miami, and the NFL Draft lead for the 33rd team. I want to give a special shout out to our everydayers who tune in because it is your team every day. We don't just say it, we live it here on the Locked On Network. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time. If you're trying to get down to the game on Sunday at the Rock, use Game Time, and we'll tell you a little bit more about Game Time a little later in the show. But first, we want to set the stage for a very important, obviously, game for the Dolphins with the optics of what the rest of this season can look like. This is a team that you went into Foxborough and beat with Tyler Huntley. Both of these teams, as we went over in the crossover with Locked On Patriots yesterday, the dynamics of both of these teams are a little bit different than they were when those teams played 5-6 weeks ago. I have a couple of predictions on all sides of the ball, offensively, defensively, and like a total game script, game outcome perspective. And I want to start on the offensive side of the ball where the Patriots this season, they got Christian Barmore back, which is a big development for them. But you know, they are missing Juwan Bentley, who's on injured reserve. They're missing Jabril Peppers. So they've got Marte Mapu in an elevated role in the defense. Christian Gonzalez obviously is a stalwart player who I don't know how much it changes from a coverage perspective because Tyreek's generally been pretty quiet. I think that's my first prediction is both Tyreek and Jalen. I don't see more than probably 60 yards from either one of those guys. I think this is a big-time blow-up spot again for Jonnu Smith, who's coming off of obviously a massive performance in the game against the Raiders. But Sion Takitaki, Jelani Tavai, Christian Ellis, Anthony Jennings, these are the kind of the options that I think if the Patriots decide they want to take that element of the game away, I think that's where you get a potential blow-up spot for one of the wide receivers. But the way that teams have generally played the Dolphins leads me to believe that you're not going to get a ton of individual coverage with one of Duggar or Mapu because they're going to want to get those guys on the roof and to help limit some explosive plays. And maybe Christian Gonzalez, they trust to play on an island, and they turn the rest of the game into 10 on 10 as compared to 11 on 11. But I don't think, based off of how they have played you, I don't think this is a big blow-up spot for either Reek or Waddle. I would love to be wrong, but I think the ancillary weapons, once again, and that can include Devon Achane. I think this is probably a better get-right spot for Raheem Mostert, who's kind of been quiet, obviously, since the fumbles that this team has endured against Buffalo and against Indianapolis. Raheem's kind of taken a back seat. Raheem talked to the media this week and said that he and Mike McDaniel see eye to eye. They're on the same page now as far as his role and his circumstances. And I hope that means they can find opportunities for him. It's obviously a tough balance to balance Achane and the workload that he is warranting with how he's played. He's been much better since Tua came back from injured reserve to balance Jalen Wright as a talented young runner with a lot of explosiveness. But I think Raheem and his experience versus what you'd expect this front is going to give you. I think this is a potential get-right game for Raheem Mostert as well. Not tons of production, not 120 rushing yards or anything like that. But I think you'll see the biggest impression that Raheem Mostert has had on a game in the last month or so will come in this game against the Patriots. So those are some of the names that I kind of have soft circle. I think Tua continues the super efficient style of play that he's had. One of my bold predictions is I'll say the Patriots don't sack him. And I know Christian Barmore is back. I know they've added Yannick Ngakoue to that front. Keon White obviously is still there and is a strong presence, but Dietrich Wise is a little banged up for them. So it would be interesting to see how he progresses through the injury report. He did not participate in practice on Thursday with a foot injury. So that's something to watch. And then the rest of that edge group, Keon White limited with a knee, Anthony Jennings limited with a knee. They've got a defensive tackle limited with a knee. They've got another defensive tackle, Jaquan Roy, who did not practice with a neck injury. Christian Barmore did not practice on Thursday. It was not listed as an injury-related issue, so you'd expect he'll probably be ready to go, but he's only in his second game. How well are his feet going to be underneath him? So I think Miami, as I look at the Patriots and some of their trends from a statistics standpoint, I will say the Dolphins become the 5th team this season, joining the Titans, the Rams, the Jets, and the 49ers. I think the Dolphins become the 5th team this season to put up 400 yards of offense against the Patriots. That's another one of my bold predictions. And from Miami's perspective, 400 yards is not a small thing. They achieved that in week 1 against Jacksonville. They have not achieved that since. So how much of that comes via passing game? How much of that comes via running game? They've averaged about 75 yards, 76 yards rushing in the 2 games. Alec Ingold, is he back? There's a lot of questions, but you can put me down for no sacks for the Patriots, and you can put me down for 400 yards of offense for the Dolphins as bold predictions going into this game in Week 12. Dolphins needing a win to move their record to 5-6 and come another step closer to kind of wiping the slate clean and saying you've got potentially, depending on what happens this week and Thursday against Green Bay, if those games break your way, you say you're 500, you've got a 5-game season. What do you got? Show us what you got. So what about defensively against New England, against Drake May? I have some bold predictions there. We'll bring them next here on Locked On Dolphins. Make sure you stick with us. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is sponsored by BetterHelp. November, the month of thanks. But sometimes life moves so fast, it's hard to thank another important person in your lives other than those around you in your support system, yourself. Sometimes it is hard to remind ourselves that we are trying our best to make sense of everything. And in this crazy world, that is not easy. Consider this a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, yourself included. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you could switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. If you're trying to get down to the game on Sunday against the Patriots, consider getting your tickets through Game Time. Game Time takes all of the guesswork out of buying tickets. I love the fact that Game Time allows you to see panoramic views from your seats before you commit to tickets, so you know exactly what kind of sightlines you're signing yourself up for. I love that Game Time has toggled all-in pricing, so there's no surprise fees when you put the tickets into your cart. You can just click, see what it is, prepare yourself accordingly, and buy. And then you can, with just a few taps on your phone, get those tickets delivered directly to your phone as well. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL, LOCKEDONNFL, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Game time for the Dolphins is a little over 48 hours from right now. Obviously, there's a Friday practice that has to happen. I would assume from a Dolphins injury report perspective, they are definitely going to be managing with the short week because they have to play the next game on Thursday, right? And then you'll come out of that side. You'll get 10, 11 days before your next football game and kind of reset. But Teron Armstead, not participant in practice. I wouldn't read too much into that. Jordan Poyer listed as a non-participant because of rest. Calais Campbell listed as rest. Kendall Fuller, Mike McDaniel's already touched on. I think you'll generally have everybody with the exception, the question mark being Alec Ingold, who was limited in practice. I would expect you'll see the full complement of players that are on the injury report, with the exception of maybe Alec. Alec, it sounds like, has been fighting through this the last couple of weeks. He's obviously missed the last 2 weeks. The Dolphins need him, but the Dolphins also coming into 2 games in 5 days stretch. I would not at all be surprised if they held him out of this game and kind of ramped him up to playing in Green Bay. But you're really looking at being at this point 6 days away from what would have been an IR stint for Alec Ingold with the calf, with him not playing against the Rams, not playing against the Raiders. Now you got the Patriots on Sunday and the Packers on Thursday. Like, I'd be surprised if he missed 4, because the Dolphins kind of are desperate for some roster spots, as they have guys that are starting to ramp up, like Patrick Morris, the safety, is starting to ramp his way up. Isaiah Wynn listed as a limited participant in practice. Doesn't sound like they're in a big rush to put him out on the field, but they could use some roster spots. So I would be surprised if they didn't take advantage of those gymnastics if they expected Alec to miss that much time. So I kind of expect Alec back either Sunday or Thursday. Would not be surprised, because you play 2 games in 5 days, if they simply elected to sit him on Sunday and then play him against the Packers. And then that's up to the rest of the team to kind of troubleshoot that and get yourself aligned and ready to play some football. But the Dolphins defensively, I think the boldest take that I have is that I think this is going to be the best sack production game that Miami is going to have. Drake May has escapability. Drake May has the ability to hit a lot of throws and has the ability to get outside the pocket. And he's looked good. But I think you've shown, or you've seen, I thought Miami was among their more vanilla back-end rotations as far as coverages against the Raiders versus like what they threw at Matthew Stafford. And I would not be surprised if they changed the picture a lot against Drake May, and that yielded Drake May having to hold the football for a little bit longer time. I mean, the Patriots in 11 games, their average time to throw is 2.95 seconds, according to True Media. Now, that gives you a little bit of an idea of 2 is 2.4. You're talking an extra half second. And for Chop Robinson, who's playing well, Zach Sealer back on the horse, Calais Campbell back on the horse, I think you'll have a little bit better coverage integrity. You consider David Long and his departure, and Anthony Walker. That was an element that was just kind of starting to unfold when these two teams first played each other. David had missed the Titans game, and then they kind of platooned against New England the first time you played. I think you're going to be a little bit more consistent in the middle of the field, maybe less easy completions. The Patriots are giving up pressure on 52% of dropbacks on third down this season. How's that for a pause for dramatic effect? They have conceded 169 pressures already this season. In 11 games, they've conceded 35 sacks already this season. So for a Dolphins team that has really struggled to finish opportunities to get the quarterback down on the ground, that's where my frame of mind goes for this game if I'm looking for bold predictions. Calais Campbell leads the team in sacks. Emmanuel Ogbah and Zach Sealer both have 3 behind Calais Campbell's 4. But the team collectively has 17 sacks this season. That's the worst figure in the AFC, despite all of the pressure and disruption. So I think you'll see some exotic coverage rotations. I think you'll see a little bit more stable middle of the field coverage than what there was the first time these two teams played. I think you'll see Chop Robinson playing better. And then the other part of this storyline, too, is what is happening with Vidarian Lowe, who did not practice on Thursday. He's their starting left tackle. And when you do the inventory on the Patriots and their offensive line, they have Vidarian Lowe, Michael Jordan, Ben Brown, not that Michael Jordan, come on, Ben Brown, Layden Robinson, a rookie, and Mike Onwenu is the starting 5. They have a 4th-round pick from 2023, Sidney Sal, as a backup guard. They have Tyrese Robinson as the other backup guard. They have Lysitis Smith, who has played center and guard from Virginia Tech. They signed him off the practice squad in Green Bay. The only other offensive lineman on the roster, the only other tackle on the roster is DeMontre Jacobs. So Vidarian Lowe, for a Patriots perspective, he better be ready to go. But if he's not, I think that only puts more fuel in the fire of what my bold prediction here is, and that's that the Dolphins are going to have their most successful day rushing the passer on the season against New England. I think they will have continued success as they have had in this recent stretch defending the run. The Patriots rushed for 151 yards the first time these two teams played. That was boosted by a long touchdown run, 33 yards by Ramondre Stevenson. Stevenson goes 12 for 89, and Antonio Gibson goes 6 for 52 and a 24-yard run in there. The explosive run defense has been better for Miami. I think they will find a way to keep the screws on. That the team defense has been impressive against the run. 82 yards to Arizona, 94 yards to Buffalo, those with mobile quarterbacks. The Rams went for 70 yards, and then the Raiders this past week went for 60. And out of the 60 rushing yards that they had as a team, they had the quarterback go for 7. Jacoby Myers, a wide receiver, went for 19. And then they had Trey Tucker go for another 7. So they had 34 of their team rushing yards come from not running backs. Maybe Drake May tags you for some, but I'd expect you probably to hold them under 90, 80 rushing yards as a team, again, defensively. So those are some of the bold predictions that I have. I think the front is in for a nice day against New England. And I think Anthony Weaver is going to have a nice game plan cooked up, especially with some of the dynamics that are different around this team than what there were the last time these two teams played. Now, what does that mean for final score prediction? Is it a stressful Sunday or not? We're going to get into that next here on Locked On Dolphins, so make sure that you stick with us. With the seasons changing, I'm already dreaming of a warm weather getaway. I love using points for travel, and I'm always looking for more ways to earn and book my next flight. Here's a life hack for you. Bilt lets you earn points on rent payments and redeem them towards flights, hotels, and a lot more. One of your biggest investments should be getting you more than just a roof over your head. So here's how it works. There's no cost to join Bilt, and as a member, you'll earn valuable points on rent and your everyday spending. Bilt points can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, even the ones you haven't heard of. So over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties around the world that you can redeem your Bilt points towards. Points can also be redeemed towards a future rent payment and unique experiences that only Bilt members can access. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, why not? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure to use our URL so that we know you sent you. Joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL to start earning points on your rent payments today. So as far as a score prediction, I don't think the Dolphins cakewalk here. I think the Patriots will play a style of play that necessitates you to earn your trips down the field in probably similar fashion to the way in which the Raiders did. And the Dolphins finished with 353 yards against the Raiders. Now, my bold prediction says 400. You're probably a chunk explosive run away. And you obviously had a chunk explosive pass play to kind of put that game on ice away from a very similar recipe. And they had a couple chunk runs that were kind of there, but you had one missed block at the point of attack against the Raiders. So I think Miami wins this football game and moves to 5-6 at home. I think they do so in fashion that probably feels a little bit similar to last week, where you'll feel like Miami has control of the flow of the game. But because of the way the game unfolds, I would not be surprised to be midway through the third quarter, and this is a tightly contested game on the scoreboard. And you would like to think down the stretch, the same thing that happened against the Raiders can happen against the Patriots with an inexperienced quarterback, with a team that's playing at home, getting a cold weather team that's coming down. You obviously going to play them in the sun. It's a 1 o'clock kick. That's all great stuff. And that's kind of where my mind is at. So if I had to pick a score, I know that the spread on FanDuel last I saw yesterday was 7.5. It's been pinballing back and forth. Case in point, I just pulled it up. It's back to Miami -7. So it gets to -7. You get a lot of money on Dolphins -7. It goes to Dolphins -7.5. Then the money starts to come in on the Patriots to cover by a touchdown, and then it comes back down. It's been doing it all week. I kind of feel like that's the ballpark we're going to finish in. You can put me down in this game from a score prediction standpoint. Dolphins 28, Patriots 20. I think you'll force a couple field goals on some drives, buckle up in the red zone. The Dolphins have been good in the red zone defensively this season. We mentioned that on the crossover. They're 8th in the NFL in touchdown percentage and defensive trips into the red zone, 48%. That's been an area the Patriots have been really bad. They're 15 of 32, 47% on the season. That's 29th in the NFL. Those are the kinds of things, provided you can get more minus plays. If you can, defensively, you can win the early downs and win rushing the passer on third downs. Even if you give up some plays that kind of move the field and the starting point in the field position game, they'll turn the tide for you. So that's my frame of mind coming into this game. I think the Dolphins' defensive line will play a starring role. I think he'll be efficient on offense again. I think he'll get a few key stops. And that's going to be the recipe for the Dolphins moving to 5-6 in a one-score win at home against the Patriots. But give me the Dolphins to cover -7. That's going to do it for us here today on Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Locked On Dolphins. I'll be back after the game on Sunday. We also have a postcast coming from Greece. So if you're listening on your podcast feed, don't be surprised if you see a postcast in the audio feed. That is not my voice. I'm doing my own post-game show. You will get it shortly after the game as well. Look forward to breaking down this latest Dolphins game as the Dolphins continue their march to try to climb back up into the thick of things in the AFC. I am Kyle Krabs. Keep it locked in right here on Locked On Dolphins. We'll talk to you all again soon.